It's so good to be with you here today. My name is Emily Vorty, and I am an Associate Director in the White House Office of Public Engagement. And I also serve as our primary liaison to disabled Americans. So it's so good to welcome you here today for this roundtable on home and community-based services, specifically here in the Staten Island community. To kick us off, I don't want to waste any more of our time without introducing our phenomenal guest, the Deputy Secretary of Labor, Sue. So it's so wonderful to have you with us here today, Deputy Secretary.
Thank you so much, Emily. It's such a privilege to be here with all of you. I was confirmed as Deputy Secretary of Labor and joined the Department of Labor just 4 weeks ago. So I have spent the entirety of the last 4 weeks digging into the work of the Labor Department. And so it's such an honor to be joining you for one of my first official external events. So thank you so much for having me. When I got the call asking if I would serve as Deputy Secretary, one of the reasons I was so drawn to the job was because of President Biden's Build Back Better agenda. It's an agenda that puts people first by closing the economic, racial, and opportunity gaps that have existed for far too long. This historic investment in home and community-based services in Build Back Better is critical to achieving that goal. Funding for home and community-based services would provide a necessary service that supports people with disabilities and aging Americans. And we all know that care will affect all of us. And as you all know better than most, high quality care for Americans with disabilities is inextricably linked to adequate resources for caregivers and service providers. The way I often talk about it is that all the policy priorities of this administration are also opportunities to create good jobs in the communities that need them the most. We want to care for those who give the care and those who receive the care. And that means that ensuring that caregivers earn living wages that allow them to support themselves and their families, that they have access to health insurance and other benefits, and that they can exercise their right to organize and to collectively bargain. This will reduce turnover, which will ultimately also help ensure that we can meet the demand for these valuable services with a well-trained and stable workforce. Build Back Better funding would also allow providers to expand services and programming, create the infrastructure needed to support those currently without the services that they need, and provide funding for states to address the home care workforce crisis. I know that I'm preaching to the choir all of this, so the time has come. There's momentum. Let's seize this moment. Today, COVID has really driven home for all to see that essential workers, especially workers of color, including at the center of that, our care workers, make incredible sacrifices so the rest of us can live. And as Secretary Marty Walsh has said, the mission of the Department of Labor is to empower all workers morning, noon, and night. So that's what we're going to be doing, is bringing the full force of the department's people and powers to work for America's workers throughout the day. This means building an economy that values care workers and those that care for, fighting for workers throughout the day. And I'm very excited to work with you to build this world that we can imagine. Thank you so much for all your work and allowing me to join you today. Well, Emily, you're still muted.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry. Thank you. I was just saying, thank you so much, Deputy Secretary, for your time. It's something we can't avoid 2 years into this using Zoom. Something we still fall into a trap with, but no, thank you so genuinely. This community is really excited to continue this conversation. And again, so much of that is in partnership with our colleagues, our friends in labor, ensuring that we have both high quality care and that our caregiving workforce is supported. So thank you so much for your time today. Without further ado, I want to kick it over to some of our storytellers today who are from the Staten Island area, who are here to tell us a little bit about what they're seeing on the ground in their communities and how they would benefit from this historic investment in home and community-based services. So I want to kick it off to our first speaker, storyteller, Kristen Thatcher, who's going to share with us her experience as a self-advocate. Oh, Kristen, if you just want to unmute as well. I think we had the same problem.
Wow, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Hi, my name is Kristen Thatcher. I am 32 years old and I have Asperger's, a type of autism. My parents were told that I had a learning disabilities when I was 3 years old. I began to have support at school when I was in early intervention. I had many different types of therapies before I started school to help me to succeed. When I started kindergarten at PS 60, I had my first para named Miss M, and I loved her. She helped me to realize that I wanted to be a teacher and help people that were just like me. There were many people that helped me in many schools on Staten Island and Brooklyn. They encouraged me to chase my dreams, especially at Bay Ridge Prep. When I graduated high school in 2008, I became a student in the Melissa Reggio program at the College of Staten Island. This program helped students like me to be the best person they can be by helping students in college classes become more social and much more. This was the first time I had help from a DSP, and they helped me to be the best person I could be. They saw the able, not the label, something we should all work towards. When I while in the Melissa Reggio program, I began doing advocacy work for people with disabilities in New York and in the Northeast. I advocated for the needs of people with disabilities, such as preventing services to be cut, more housing opportunities, higher salaries for DSPs to support us, and much more. Self-advocacy changed my life in many ways. It made me more confident, independent, and focused. I like to fight for people with disabilities. I discovered through practice how to talk to politicians and other people without being afraid. It also taught me how it taught me how to speak up when something was not right. I was able to become a voice for the voiceless, and I am proud of myself on doing the right thing for people like me. After I graduated from the Melissa Reggio program, I landed a job with AHRC as a DSP, direct support professional. I love teaching and empowering my individuals to be the best they can be. Unlike other DSPs, I come from a very special position because I am an individual too. I understand some of their struggles in ways others may not. I am I am proud to be working for AHRC. As a strong advocate, I was able to convince AHRC that I would be useful in training new and current staff. My position was how can they support individuals without meeting us? So today, I train staff in natural supports, positive approaches, and share my story with them. Today today I have been doing this for the last 6 years, and I love my job. Every day I get to help people like me to be the best they can be and live life to the fullest. To close, I would like to share with you a poem I wrote about being normal. We are all normal in our own way, and we need to empower individuals with disabilities to be more than individuals, but people like you and me. What is being normal really mean? Having a learning disability, is that normal? Being blind, being a genius, is that normal? Being blind, deaf, or in a wheelchair, is that normal? I don't know why people say being normal is very important. Who you are, you cannot change, but you can't let those little problems ruin your life. Always think positive, then you will get through those little problems. We are normal in our special way.
Thank you so much, Kristen. That was wonderful. I want to turn it over now to Laura Kennedy. Laura is a board member of AHRC New York City, a treasurer of the ARC US, and a mother of a woman with significant intellectual and developmental disabilities. And her daughter is currently living in an AHRC home on Staten Island. So Laura, I'll take it over to you. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Emily. And thank you, Kristen, for all the work that you're doing. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for inviting us to lend our support to this important legislation. As Emily said, my daughter, Julia, is 39 years old and lives in a community residence on Staten Island operated by AHRC. Very early on, we recognized that Julia had significant developmental delays, and we knew we would not be on this journey alone to help Julia learn and grow. We've been very grateful for the early intervention, preschool, and special education services that she had. And very early on, we knew the value of trusting others on this journey. Whether it was a speech therapist or a teacher or a camp counselor or Jessie at the overnight respite at AHRC that helped a busy family with 4 daughters go on an outing that might be too difficult for Julia. It was 20 years ago that Julia's school ended and Julia moved as an adult into the residence with 5 other individuals with developmental disabilities. The house has very caring, dedicated, well-trained, and talented staff. And her day program at Eden 2 are awesome as well. Julia needs total support throughout the day. She has limited verbal ability and very little understanding of danger and sometimes challenging behaviors. We have been grateful that Julia has the support of staff that know her well, and we trust them with Julia's life, and that trust has been well earned. Several times, Julia needed hospitalization and surgery, and it was the quick action of staff that saved her life. The job description for a support professional is extensive. They are life professionals. They prepare nutritious meals, help with her bathing, dressing, assisting Julia with house chores, administering medication, escorting her to community events, medical appointments, and so much more, including an overabundance of paperwork. The staff salaries don't match the important work they do. We have a crisis that has been escalating during the last 10 years on Staten Island, in New York, and across the United States. Continuity of staff is critical for people with disabilities. There are long waiting lists for residential services, and we have individuals with IDD living at home with elderly parents who worry about their future. Severe staff shortages is at a crisis level, and it's difficult to recruit and retain staff. And that again is due to compensation that does not reflect the important work they do. We should not have to have staff members work 2 or more jobs to make ends meet. Families today worry, and we must do better. The Better Care, Better Jobs Act will ensure that support professionals will have a living wage that allows them to appropriately care for their own families as they care and support for people like my daughter, Julia. During the 70s and 80s, this country understood that people with disabilities needed the education and the supports to be vibrant members of their community. But we've dropped the ball. So this human infrastructure is so needed at this time for the future, the Better Care, Better Jobs Act. And this bill is a life changer and a life preserver, allowing Americans to take care of Americans. So as a parent advocate, as a board member of the AHRC, I know my voice represents the thousands of individuals who need and support this vital legislation. So thank you for allowing us to speak out. We look forward to the passage of this very soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. I want to kick it off now to our next speaker, Michael Item. And he is a direct service provider, direct support professional, for AHRC on Staten Island. So Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Madam Deputy Secretary, I count it a privilege and an honor that causes me to tremble. This opportunity to pour my heart about the job and the profession that I love so very much. My name is Michael Iteme. I work with AHRC. As a direct support professional, my role begins with those little things that we take for granted. Supporting the people we care for to learn how to brush their teeth independently, supporting them to learn how to make breakfast independently, to make their own bed, to take shower by themselves. These little things are very important to them. You see the joy in their face when they're able to learn and do these things for themselves. Those ones who are not able to learn it, we support them hand over hand. You know, if we have to bait them, we bait them. We help them to prepare the meals, the breakfast, the lunches, and the dinner. We support them to learn also how to prepare their own lunches, to make their own breakfast, to make their own dinner. We help them we support them with medication administration, to administer their medications. These are just some of the things that we do as support professionals. Very important also is that we are advocates. We advocate for them when we take them out on clinic to the hospitals. We advocate to ensure that they are not treated any differently, to ensure that they receive the treatment that they deserve, the care that they deserve. When we take them out to the community, we advocate for them. We ensure that they are treated with dignity and respect. This is very important and it's very dear to my heart. We make sure we protect them from the group of people who want to take advantage of them. These things are not right, and we cannot see it happen. And we thank God for agencies like the Justice Center that is in place to protect them, as we also lend our voice to make sure that they are protected in the society. I've been working in this field for the past 13 years. You ask, why this long? Why do I love, why did I stay? What do I love about this job? I stay because this is my passion. Caring for people, for me, it is like sowing a seed. When you sow a good seed, it will germinate. When this seed germinates, it will grow into a tree. The tree will bear fruits. You know, I am 45 years old today, but I will not be 45 years tomorrow. A time is coming, I'm also going to need help. I'm going to need support. I'm going to need somebody to care for me. So what I'm doing for them today, I'm sowing a seed that I'm also going to reap tomorrow. This is the reason why I love what I do. And look at today. I'm an immigrant from Nigeria who is a privileged, naturalized American citizen. God bless this great country. I'm here today speaking to you, Madam Deputy Secretary. This is great. This all became possible. Why? Because I chose to love caring for people with developmental disability. They are the reason why I'm here today, and I'm very grateful for that. There are challenges with what we do. Providing personal care, following very specific protocols and therapies, administration of medication and treatment, assisting people with challenging life situations. And with the presence of COVID, family members, people we care for, friends passing on, those are difficult and challenging times. For COVID, this has been a very difficult year and a half. Routines have been dramatically changed for people, and we have had to assist people in adapting to the new ways of life. And we all face exposure to COVID virus, but we came to work. Despite the risk, we believe in what we do. We were called essential workers. Some call us heroes. But we are doing exactly just what we love. The Better Care, Better Job Act. This is why I'm speaking today. I love what I do, but it is a hard profession. It does not pay as well as it could, given all that we are responsible for and all we do. In fact, for me personally, I have to work 2 full-time jobs. I work 80 hours every single week. Out of the 80 hours, I work 4 16-hour shifts every single week. There are some weeks I have to work additional hours. Some weeks I work 96 hours overtime to take care of my family, to support my family. It should not have to be this way. And sadly, many of my co-workers have to do the same. And people are leaving to do other things despite loving what we do. I see this more and more. And I hope that this act can help stop that. We need to care for what we do, to care about us, to care about the people we are working with. One of my fears, Madam Deputy Secretary, is a few years ago, one of my colleagues, we all look forward to working very hard and it's time to retire. We're looking forward to that retirement so we can rest. But a few years ago, one of my colleagues, Arnold Piena, may his soul rest in peace. 6 months after he retired, he worked in this same field, 2 jobs in this same field. 6 months after retirement, he passed away. It shouldn't be that way. I fear for myself for that. I don't want that to happen to me. Finally, to the President of the United States of America, President Joe Biden. We have been in the dark for so long, but you have brought us the light. I am very confident that this light will keep shining. For this, I say thank you, and I say God bless the United States of America.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you for your witness and your service in this profession. Next, I want to introduce Ray. He's the president of AHRC New York in Staten Island, and also a parent of a son who benefits from home and community-based services. So Ray, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Emily, and thank you, Deputy Secretary. So let me start and just talk a little bit about Nicholas. Nicholas is 27 years old. He has autism, and he lives at home with my wife and I. When Nicholas was born, Nicholas developed typically until about 18 months old. And at 18 months, he lost his words. and didn't speak again until he was 8. And in fact, had it not been for the hard work of dedicated professionals in Nick's life, I'm not sure if he would have ever spoken. So Nicholas has words and he speaks. He's still challenged with communication. He has no sense of safety, but he's happy in his world and with the supports that that have been provided him. He and my family have been the beneficiary of great supports and services, services that became possible with landmark federal legislation in the 70s and the 80s. Things like early intervention, special education, recreation, ComHab. Nick attends a day program on Staten Island. We also, in order for us to be able to go to work, we have caregivers in our home through self-direction, and they're here at 7 a.m. so we can get out to work and they can get Nicholas out to the day program. They're here in the afternoon before we get home from work. And these are people who we trust to come into our home and make sure Nicholas is safe. And again, Nicholas, these are the benefits that have been put in place with the infrastructure that's been built. However, as echoed by Laura, this is an infrastructure that over the last 20 or 25 years has frayed from underfunding, for failing to be recognized for the value it brings to individuals and families, as well as the community as a whole. Families are challenged with finding dedicated professionals like Michael, professionals passionate about their work and paid a wage that enables them to support their families. This is an exciting time with this bill. I am hopeful that we in this country will begin to rebuild and reinvigorate the vital human infrastructure that supports people on the margins, people like Nicholas, who are unable to speak for themselves, and for parents who can have the confidence and solace knowing that their children will be protected and cared for by well-trained, well-compensated workforce. We know one day Nicholas will have to be in a residential setting. We hope that setting is in the community he lives and with people who respect him and care for him and afford him the dignity that everyone is entitled to. These are our stories, but they are the stories of so many people and families and workers on Staten Island, in New York City, and across this nation. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the work you do to move these policies and to make these policies tangible realities in the lives of people. I look forward to the gains that we will see in the future. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Ray. So grateful for your story and your witness. Our final presenter today is Michael Weinberg, and Michael is the Vice President of Residential Services at AHRC New York City in Staten Island. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about how this COVID-19 pandemic that we've seen continue through the surge of the Delta variant has impacted the service delivery system. He also is a parent of a daughter with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So we'll also speak from that perspective as well. So Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, Emily. When I first heard about the Better Care, Better Jobs Act, two things popped in my mind. First was a sign I had seen that said, "Care is infrastructure." The other thing was thinking back to a quote, I believe it's from Hubert Humphrey in the later 70s, and he was describing the moral obligation of government, sort of, if you will, a moral test. And he said something along the lines that government's moral test is in how it treats children who are in the dawn of life, those who are in the twilight of life, the elderly, and those who are in the shadows of life, who would be the sick and those with disabilities. For 30 years, I've worked with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and really closely with the staff who support them. For 30 years, we've worked collectively here at AHRC, but many other providers on Staten Island and New York State, New York City. And we've worked to move people out of the shadows of life into the forefront in their communities. That's been a focus of ours for decades now, to help people take their rightful place as co-citizens. It's been a tremendous opportunity to help people and their families, to help people create a space for others in the community, to help build quality of lives that people want, whether it's the person and or their family working together. When I think about this too, I also have to mention that 10 years ago, my youngest daughter, Elizabeth, was diagnosed with autism. And she, and actually really we as a family, have all benefited from a number of supports and services that have helped her to learn and to grow. She's grown, she's 13 now, and she struggles to keep up with her peers in school, but she has a life with friends and with family. She's a part of our local neighborhood. And while things are sort of settled now, we do from time to time think about what the future may hold. We certainly want a life that is out of the shadows, something that we've been doing for at least 30 years that I've been here. Unfortunately, to a certain extent, my home life and work life have been intertwined, and we've seen and experienced an erosion of services for people with disabilities. We've experienced programs that have been eliminated, hours that have been reduced, and we are well aware, both at home and at work, that our salaries for staff or our direct support professionals really has failed to keep up, to be competitive with many opportunities that are out there, even with minimum wage jobs that are available out here in Staten Island, New York City. To be honest, I haven't seen anything like this in the 30 years I've been working in the field. One of the things that struck me not too long ago is that early intervention for young children, which helped my daughter, which helped Kristen and her friends, is no longer a viable service to provide for agencies. That agencies find it hard to do this, despite the fact that it's been a proven successful program that brings people, moves people forward to be a little more independent. The other thing that I hear frequently that I worry about, but I have friends and colleagues in the field that they had hoped to have smooth transitions for their loved ones, for their sons, daughters, and family members to move into a residential setting at some point. And while that was a dream that I'm sure nobody had hoped for when their children were first born, it became sort of a natural progression that has slowly been eroding away. Now, basically, people who are in crisis can move into residential. The planning that I was used to for years is no longer the case. And I see the struggle of friends who waited to have their children placed, who were maybe 40, 50, now 60, some 70 years old, waiting for their child who's still at home to have a residential placement. This wasn't the way it was. There was a structure that was in place and was working for quite some time. So I understand this also as I look forward and think 10, 20 years down the road and wonder what services will be available for my family. Again, my personal life and work life are joined together. And it's sad and increasingly frustrating for many of us to hear Michael's story, Michael Atime, and to witness staff leaving our field, a field that people genuinely love, just because they can't afford to stay here and make a career out of it, whether they have to do multiple jobs or there's competition on the island in New York City for employers with higher rates. It's sad to see this happen. And again, the number of staff who are working multiple jobs, 2-3 jobs, sometimes 2 full-time jobs like Michael, the numbers are staggering, especially out here in Staten Island. And I'm struck with wondering, how can this be? How do we get here? At the height of COVID pandemic, Michael brought this up, direct support professionals and frontline supervisors were literally putting their lives on the line to come to work. We called them essential. We at AHRC, we call them heroes. And yet now we allow them to continue to struggle despite their care and commitment. So you have to wonder, is this how we continue to treat our essential workers? We're hoping the Better Care, Better Jobs Act will address this, because we need to support our staff. We need to care for those who care for others. If we do need to invest in our staff, and we need to make sure that supports and services for people like Kristen, for my daughter, and for many, many others, that those services continue to help people with disabilities become more independent, to ensure that people will have a place in their communities. So going back to the Humphrey quote, we have to pass this moral test. We can't allow people to go back to the shadows of life, as was commonly viewed in the 70s. So if we value people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, then we need to value the staff who work for them. It's an investment in their lives, the lives of staff and the people that we help support and serve. It's really looking forward to their future. So I just want to thank the administration for really putting forward the Better Care and Better Jobs Act. We thank the Deputy Secretary for being with us. And I hope this comes to fruition, that we can make this happen for better care and better jobs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael, and to all our panelists once again for your witness, for your sharing, and for your advocacy. We know, as you know, as Deputy Secretary Sue iterated, as well as so many of you reiterated, that high quality care necessitates high quality workforce that is well compensated and well cared for. So we thank you all for being able to share with us this context on Staten Island. I want to thank our partners, the AHRC, in Caring Across Generations. I'm going to turn it over for some final closing remarks from two of our organizers, Marco Damiani, who is the CEO of AHRC New York City, as well as Eric Geiser, who is the CEO of the AHRC New York. So thank you all for being here, and I'll turn it over to you all to close us out.
Thank you very much, Emily. And many thanks to today's inspirational and compelling storytellers. You remind us of the determination and resilience of the human condition, and you spur us on to make the change that we need to see in the world. Also, thanks to Deputy Department of Labor Secretary, Deputy Secretary Julie Su. Your presence here today reinforces President Biden's commitment to supporting the life-changing work that we do every day. And finally, thanks to you, Emily, for your leadership and professionalism in setting up today's event. The Oxford Dictionary's definition of infrastructure includes this line: the social infrastructure of a country. Underinvested, undervalued, unappreciated, inequitable, and invisible. That's our nation's current care infrastructure. Trains that work and run on time, bridges that don't fall down, roads that aren't crumbling. Who doesn't want that? Full stop. But human infrastructure is really the most important infrastructure, isn't it? We strive for quality of life for ourselves and our family, but why not also for communities and society at large? AHRC New York City has a remarkable workforce of 5,000 staff. They are our most valuable asset. But it has become increasingly challenging to treat them that way. This is also true for the many nonprofit providers in New York State and around the nation. In New York State, nonprofits employ over 100,000 direct support professionals. When government and society significantly value the care economy workforce, that workforce is greatly strengthened and rewarded for their professionalism, their compassion, and their commitment to a meaningful and long career. Let's be sure to bring direct support professionals out of the shadows and designate them as a legitimate and critical part of the national workforce. Home and community-based services enhancements will increase access to supports and enable unprecedented strides in righting the numerous inequities experienced by people with disabilities, people of color, and others throughout this nation. These are people who may need care and support to be active and engaged members of society. The COVID-19 pandemic has made that as clear as the light of day. The Better Care, Better Jobs Act proposes a once-in-a-generation investment that will make our nation a better place to live. That's what social justice is all about, isn't it? The human services field needs greatly enhanced resources now more than ever and deserves recognition for the indispensable value that they provide to individuals with disabilities, families, and their communities. A united and strong coalition of people with disabilities, families, government, advocates, and providers can make it all come true. So many thanks to the administration for leading this urgent effort. I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of today's event. Thanks again.
Thank you, Marco. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Emily, President Biden, the administration, and the White House for their leadership and partnership on this event. I also want to thank the amazing work of our AHRC New York City chapter in pulling the event together. My name is Eric Geiser. I am the CEO of the AHRC New York. The stories you heard today tell a tale of the importance of creating an infrastructure that supports people with disabilities and the nonprofits that provide vital services every day to encourage community integration and independence. A little background on our organization. We are the largest nonprofit provider for individuals with IDD in New York State. We collectively employ 35,000 people. We support approximately 60,000 New Yorkers with IDD. 90% of our funds come from Medicaid and support the people we provide services for. Our organization, along with the New York Disability Advocates, also known as NYDA, is actively engaged in encouraging the passage of the Better Care, Better Jobs Act, which will make critically needed investments in home and community-based services. If you don't believe that investing in people is important to our economy, we want to remind you that the AHRC New York contributes $1.3 billion in salaries and benefits and generates close to $800 million in economic activity from employee and vendor spending in New York State. The AHRC New York has chapters in all 62 counties across the state, and in some counties, we are not only the largest provider of services, but we're also the largest provider. You heard stories from our New York City chapter and advocates in Staten Island, but we have similar ones in every part of the state. Providers are struggling financially, cannot staff their programs, and are being forced to shut down their services. The situation is dire. A recent statewide survey of providers demonstrates just how gravely investment is needed in our field. Here are some staggering statistics for you to think on. Almost a full 25% of positions remain vacant. Almost 70% of the agencies indicate that senior staff and executives are covering shifts. And 93% of providers report a decrease in applicants for open positions in the first quarter of this year. In the capital of our state, Albany, a fast food worker is paid $15 an hour, while the average starting wage for a direct support professional, a DSP, to work in one of our residential programs is $1.50 lower than that. In Staten Island, our starting wage for a direct care worker in a group home is the same as the minimum wage for someone cooking burgers or stocking shelves. Let me be perfectly clear. These are not minimum wage jobs. Our direct care staff are heroes, and our DSPs deserve a living wage. We need the Better Care, Better Jobs Act. And for the sake of people with disabilities and their families, you should want it too. Thank you to everyone who participated today, and let's get this legislation passed.
And with that, we'll close out. Thank you all for attending today. Really, again, thanks so much to our panelists and our sponsors, our organizers today, the AHRC, AHRC, as well as Caring Across Generations. Really appreciate all of your support. Have a wonderful rest of your day.